G'day and welcome to Redriven. Now, I'm guessing that you're thinking that this is a Ford Mondeo, or if you're watching this from the Americas, it's a Ford Fusion. But what it is it's actually a dinosaur. It's a relic of the past. It's a glimpse into the history of what we as humans used to drive before we became all obsessed with SUVs. See, these are to be no more. Ford, after nearly 3 decades, are not going to make anything like the Mondeo/Fusion. Now this then begs the question, with the Fusion/Mondeo soon to be extinct, look, as far as the new car goes, what's a used one like? Like, what goes wrong with them? What do they like to drive and live with on a daily basis? What do they cost to own and operate and buy? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now before we get deep into the Mondeo/Fusion, because we're here in Australia, we call these a Mondeo. So from now on in this video, it's a Mondeo. We know it's a Fusion, but you know, the US and Canada, they're only little places on this enormous planet. There's other countries out there. Everyone else calls it a Mondeo. In the video, it's now a Mondeo. Now, speaking of countries on this big planet of ours, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the Australian variant of the MD Mondeo. But if you're not from Australia, don't fret, because everything that we're going to be going over should relate to Mondeos in your local market. Now, to keep this video as objective as we possibly could, we've reached out to multiple Ford owners groups, Mondeo owners groups. We've spoken to Ford specialist mechanics and technicians. We've trawled through forums and reliability surveys and customer satisfaction reports. So this video is basically the culmination of all of that and their information. Now, the MD series Mondeo has been in production since back in 2012, but we didn't receive it here in Australia until 2015. And when it landed here, it was available in primarily 3 different trim specs. But look, to give you a better overview of the MD Mondeo range, here's me doing a voiceover. Starting from the base spec Ambiente and climbing through the mid-spec Trend and wrapping up with the top spec fully equipped Titanium, the Mondeo has been available in Australia as either a 5-door liftback hatch or a 5-door wagon, with specific trim specs and body styles available with the choice of a 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine powering the front wheels via a 6-speed automatic, or a 2-litre turbocharged diesel engine powering again the front wheels, but this time via a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. This generation Mondeo has also seen a number of updates during its life cycle, most notably in 2017 and again in 2019, receiving revised styling and updates to both infotainment and safety tech and equipment. Now guys, look, obviously we'd love to go over every specific detail of every upgrade and variant, but that would just take hours and hours and hours. But the thing is, we have gathered all of that information and we've put it in an incredibly handy and totally free Redriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now, if you already own a Mondeo or you're like a Mondeo expert and you've noticed in this video that we've missed something major, please let us know in the comments below. Obviously, we're going to do our best to cover everything we can, but yeah, if we've missed something, let us know in those comments. Okay, so does it look good? Okay, well look, for me, it depends. Ford actually owned Aston Martin when this was being developed and designed and engineered, and you can kind of tell that Ford borrowed some design styling from Aston Martin for the front end. So I like the front end. But then when you get around to the side, it just looks a bit big and bulky, and that's not helped by the fact that this car is clearly white, and that just enhances that. Plus it's on these smaller 17-inch wheels. But find one of these in one of the darker colors, especially like the dark silver/grey in titanium trim with the larger 19-inch alloys. It looks pretty good. Actually, this is one car that's incredibly reliant on its wheels. I saw one recently on a set of like 20-inch, like really kind of classy Euro-looking 20-inch rims, and it completely transformed the car. It looked awesome. Now, if you're in the market for one of these things, there are a few things with the exterior that you need to be on the lookout for. Let's start with the front. Okay, first up, make sure you check for any accident damage, again, around the front of the car. Some Mondeos, depending on where you're watching this from, some have these like motorized slats in the front intake. The problem is if it has had a front impact and hasn't been repaired properly, the little motor that runs those like motorized flaps can basically fail or not work, and that will have dramatically bad effects on the electronics and potentially the mechanicals of the car down the track. Okay, next up, make sure you pop the bonnet and have a look under the engine bay for any signs of accident damage. It's really easy to spot. First up, all these little black plastic clips, they might be broken and mismatching. Check that all the plastics are kind of the same color and the same aging conditions. If you've got one bit here that looks brand new, but all this looks a bit old, it's had a hit at the front. The big one, look for signs of paint overspray. If there's paint overspray in the engine bay, not a good sign. Okay, then once you've closed the bonnet, make sure you check all the panel gaps around the entire car. Do the lights fit correctly? Are they solid? Does the paint match between all the panels? It should be the same color and the same consistency. See, the problem here in Australia at least is that a lot of these were used by sales reps when they're doing, regional drives to sell stuff. And in regional Australia, they can suddenly have unscheduled meetings with kangaroos at freeway speed, and that can really damage your car. So yeah, make sure you look for any dodgy repair work or any signs of bad accidents, both with kangaroos or anything else. Okay, so how's the interior? Well, look, a mate of mine reviewed one of these things when they first came out, and he called the interior superbly average, and I think he nailed it. Like, it's not overly bad in any way, but it's also nothing special either. It's just like, here's a car interior. It exists. There you go. I should mention, but the higher spec titanium gets sportier seats and a leather interior and a bunch of other highlights. All the details are in the cheat sheet, and that definitely does lift the levels of atmosphere and sophistication. But from a design basics point of view, yeah, again, it's okay. Now, as far as ergonomics go, absolutely spot on. There's so much adjustment to the steering wheel and the seat, so getting comfy is going to be no problem at all. Even all the touch points, everything is really easy to get to. Everything feels nice as well, like all the squidginess is quite good. Nothing makes any noise. It still feels, again, it's well bolted together. Nice. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, look, I know this car hasn't got many kilometers on it, but it is, still an older model. And I have seen a few of these. A mate of mine has a wagon version of this, and it gets an absolute flogging. And wear and tear, even in his one, is quite good. In here, it's excellent. But again, I don't know, I bring this up all the time, but manufacturers with their, desire to have black piano plastic everywhere infuriates me, because it just scratches. Like, look at this, it's all so scratched up already. But besides that, wear and tear, this feels really, really good. Okay, in the back seat, I'm exactly 3 centimeters taller than another famous Ford, Han Solo and Indiana Jones Harrison Ford. This is in my driving position, and it's okay for room. Like, there's enough knee room and foot room, but the problem is, because it's like this sort of, lift back style, it just feels a bit claustrophobic in the back. Like, I am tall, but yeah, I know, I was expecting more space in the back. Also, my knees are just grazing up against the seat, which is, a little bit disappointing. As far as wear and tear goes, what wear and tear? This actually feels exactly like a new car. The seats are super comfortable, all the materials feel really good, even the black plastic here, quite good. Okay, how's the tech? Well, look, the levels of tech are going to vary pretty dramatically on year and trim spec, but to give you an overview, here's me doing another voiceover. The bare minimum that you can expect will include 12-volt power outlets, a 6-speaker stereo, Bluetooth connectivity, sat-nav, which is crap, reversing camera, hill holder, a multifunction screen, steering wheel controls, voice recognition, which is also crap, DAB radio, power windows, mirrors, LED taillights, and a trip computer. But opt for a post-update model or a higher spec, and you can expect projector headlights, daytime running lights, front and rear parking sensors, Ford's Sync 3 infotainment system with enhanced voice control. It's still crap. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a high-resolution 8-inch colour touchscreen, and rain-sensing wipers. Now, the amount of equipment and tech fitted to the Mondeo is really, really impressive, but for all of the details of which trim spec and year gets what levels of technology, jump on the redriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. So, is it practical? Oh my God, yes, it is absolutely huge back here. Plus these seats, they fold flat, so it basically becomes like a station wagon, which is interesting because these do come as a station wagon, but surely this is enough space. This is more than enough space for most people, surely. Practicality in the back seat, you have door pockets for a water bottle down here, and it actually fits really nicely, and it's easy to get. Some of these door pockets are impossible to get if you've got your leg next to the door. You've got some pockets here for your redriven Ford Mondeo script. They go in there. You've got your own air vents. There's a power outlet down there, and also in the armrest you have 2 cup holders and a spot for a sandwich. Excellent. And practicality up front, you've got a great little bin in here. You've got 2 cup holders here. You've got an excellent spot for your phone down here, which is fantastic, very specific, and another spot there for maybe a burner phone in case you're a drug dealer. Really good size glove box, which actually has like a shelving unit in it. Good size door bins for a water bottle, and a sunglasses holder, which the previous owner has left his slightly unfortunate looking sunglasses in. And that's it. I think that's it for practicality. Okay, so what goes wrong with these things? Well, we'll get to the mechanical stuff in a bit, but let's start with the exterior. Okay, first up, there are a few reports popping up now that these are getting older of the central locking kind of playing up, either not unlocking or locking or not doing what you want it to do. Honestly, most of the time it's just the battery and the key fob that needs replacing, but there are a few reports that it's some more serious electronic gremlins. Next up, there are some reports that the power windows can sort of really play up, in some circumstances, lowering all by themselves without anyone actually pushing the button. This is probably because the car might be haunted by demons or the afterlife, or it might just be more electronic gremlins. Next up, it should be noted that these taillights are really, really expensive to replace. Many hundreds of dollars, in some cases even dabbling into the thousands. The problem is, if it's broken like this can fill with water, which plays havoc with the electronics in there, and that can lead to more electronic gremlins. Okay, common problems inside. This is a big one. It depends on where you're watching this from and what trim spec and model of Mondeo you're looking at. But some of them have this section here as almost not a touch screen, but there's no physical tactile buttons as such. Loads of people complain that they're shit. They're unresponsive, they're a nightmare to use on when driving. Again, Ford, do what you've done here and add tactile buttons. Heaps better. Next up, there are loads of reports that the touch screens after a while just become, again, pretty unresponsive. It's like this other little section down here. It might just need like a refresh, like a software update, but yeah, that's not ideal. Now, there are quite a few reports that the air conditioning can just completely fail, and it's generally a problem with the condenser unit, and like any air conditioning problem, it can get expensive to fix. Now, most importantly with the interior issues, Mondeos made between 2014 and 2017 were affected by the Takata airbag recall. Make sure if you're in the market for one of these that the airbag recall has been done, or if you own one, make sure it's been done. They are really, really dangerous. Not these ones are good, but the Takata ones, bad. Now, before we get into mechanically what goes wrong with these things, I've got to ask a favor here. Like, we love making these videos and we just want to keep making more and more content for you guys, but for us to do that, we need to see support, which you guys have been fantastic with. But if you haven't subscribed or hit the like button or the bell icon, can you please do all that? And can you share these videos and spread the Redriven name as much as you can? Because the more you do of all that stuff, the more content we can make for you, and that'd be awesome. Okay, now mechanically what goes wrong with these? Well, see, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not qualified to tell you, but Jim is.
The reliability of these things is directly connected to where they're built. The Spanish-built Ford Mondeo we see in Australia is statistically more reliable than the equivalent version of the Ford Fusion built in US or Mexico. The late model 2-litre turbo EcoBoost is a pretty reliable unit. It does have its fair share of problems though, but it's not one major problem that fails all the time. It's more just a random collection of problems that fail like any car really. But there are slightly more problems in these engines when you compare it to something, say, maybe made in Japan. Having said that, it's worth mentioning that not only has this engine been in about 20 different Fords, a version of this engine or something very similar to it has been in a bunch of Volvos and Land Rovers and Range Rovers. So the availability and the affordability of parts is never going to be a problem. The DSG transmissions though, they have a well-deserved bad reputation. It's highly recommended you don't tow anything, and they really don't like stop-start city traffic. They tend to shudder on takeoff and they shift abnormally. And it's highly recommended you service them every 40,000 Ks, not every 60,000 Ks. That's not going to stop you from having a catastrophic clutch pack or valve body failure, but it will help. We do see the odd coked up inlet system. We have seen a few leaking water pumps and a few oil leaks, but basically they're not too bad. But in terms of the diesels, we see all the usual problems we see in all late model common rail diesels. We see turbo problems, we see injector seal problems, we see EGR problems and DPF problems. There is more risk in owning one of these cars, and if you want to mitigate that risk, if you're looking at one, make sure it's got a solid service history and have it looked at by your local mechanic.
So is it safe? Well look, the Mondeo scored a perfect 5-star NCAP safety rating when it was first released, and that's still pretty commendable even these days. But for an overview of what the Mondeo has in terms of safety technology and equipment, here's me doing another voiceover, but this time as fast as I possibly can. Standard safety features in the Mondeo include dual front, side chest, side head and driver knee airbags, anti-lock brakes, electronic brake force distribution, electronic stability control, traction control and adaptive cruise control. While optional safety features on early models that eventually became standard include blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, inflatable seatbelts, low speed autonomous emergency braking, lane departure warning, a driver impairment monitor and pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection. For the full breakdown of which Mondeo gets what safety tech, just jump on redriven.com and check out that cheat sheet. So what's it like to drive? It is bloody underrated is what it's like to drive. Like, this is a really enjoyable car to drive. The engine's great, it's quite responsive, it's got a good amount of pull. Like, it's not fast by any means, but it's powerful enough for what this thing's supposed to do. The ride quality is so sorted. Like, it handles these bumps. We're on some pretty bumpy country roads. Feels fantastic, and it handles nicely as well. Like, the steering is responsive. As I said, it's enjoyable to drive. Like, even as far as noises go, like when you rev the engine out, it sounds kind of half decent. There's hardly any, well, actually, there's no rattles or squeaks or any weird sounds. Even wind and road noise on the freeway, not a whole lot. Out on these roads, it's fantastic. On the freeway, it's great. Around town, it's great. From a driving perspective, it's a really good car. Actually, you know what? This is what really frustrates me about our obsession with SUVs. Because an SUV sits higher up and the center of gravity is higher, therefore the suspension has to be firmer so it doesn't, roll and pitch all over the place. So therefore the ride quality suffers because of the firmer suspension. But because this is a car and the center of gravity is lower, the suspension can just look after ride and handling. It doesn't have to worry about it pitching and rolling all over the place. Like, this is so much more enjoyable to drive than the equivalent SUV. I just wish more people bought these instead of SUVs. I like SUVs, don't get me wrong, but from a driving perspective, this every day. Look, overall, what's it like to drive? Look, I know I said it at the start, but just massively, massively underrated. Hang on, what did I say before? It was really good. Yeah, I got it, okay. Look, overall, what is it like to drive? Look, I know this car has its, little issues and gremlins here and there, but from a driving perspective, again, I know I've already said it, but it's just hugely underrated. More people need to talk about how well these things drive. So underrated. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from around about $10,000, but it'll be, super high kilometres, an early model in pretty crappy condition. At the other end of the spectrum, you're going to be looking at a smidge under 40 grand for a really, really good one. But because these cars aren't exactly the flavour of the month, or they haven't been very popular, cars haven't been very popular versus SUVs over the last few years, if this inflated used car market that we're currently in ever deflates, depreciation might hit these things really, really hard. And that might be awesome for some and a complete financial disaster for others. Now, for pricing elsewhere on this planet of ours, here's a graphic. Ford claim a fuel consumption figure of anywhere from 5.1 to 8.5 litres per 100 Ks. This one is claimed at 8.2 litres, but it's seeing figures of 9.5. Ford initially offered a 3-year, 100,000 kilometre warranty on all of these things, which was then upgraded to 5 years and unlimited kilometres as of May the 1st, 2018. And that means that some of these still have some factory support left on them, and some of them don't. Boo. Servicing is recommended at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, but many of these Mondeos still have some of Ford's capped price servicing left on them, so that's nice. Okay, so should you buy one? Well, look, while the Ford Mondeo is fabulously ordinary, the problem it has, at least here in Australia, is its competition. Look, there's no denying that the Mondeo offers so much car for the money. But the thing is, the Mazda 6, the Toyota Camry, offerings from Kia and Hyundai, and even slightly older Lexus models just do what the Mondeo does more convincingly. Look, if you need a car with this huge boot and a liftback tailgate, the Mondeo is totally worth a look, but we'd be looking at other cars higher on the list instead. If you do decide to buy a Mondeo, try to find the most recent, lowest kilometre example that you can find. We'd recommend a top spec titanium, as the used market has compressed the pricing differences between trim specs. And as cars like this aren't the popular choice at the moment, you should be able to haggle the price of a top spec down. And finally, make sure it has a full and thorough service history and have it inspected by your local licensed mechanic before you hand over your hard-earned cash. Look, do all of that and you'll have a great car. It just might not be as good as some of the other cars that you could have had instead. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and what did you think of the Mondeo? Let us know in those comments below. And remember, can you please hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons and share the video and spread the word of Redriven as much as you can, because the more you do that stuff and the more you share our videos, the more of this stuff we can make for you, and that's all we really want to do. See you next time. What do they like to live with on a daily basis? What do they like to do? Go from there, sorry. Don't panic, because everything we're going to be going over should relate to, that was terrible, go from the top of that. Ford owners groups, Mondeo owners groups, just went totally blank. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, overspray, that's a big one. Paint overspray, very, very bad thing. Sorry, start again. Most of the time it's just the key and the fucking battery, you dickhead. All right, here we go, cool. Ford comes along, oh, no they don't. Ford, okay, so should you buy one? I need to swallow it first, sorry, here we go. Look, do a little, sorry, fucking come on, here we go.